They say every story has a reason, but the one I'm about to tell you, it's a warning, a memory that refuses to stay buried, no matter how much I try to forget. I don't care if you believe me or not. All I ask is that you listen, really listen, till the very end, because somewhere in the middle of this story, you'll realize it could have happened to you. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe. Some stories are meant to entertain you, but this one might follow you. It was exactly midnight when I decided to walk home instead of waiting for a ride. The road stretched long and narrow between the sleeping houses, their lights faint like dying embers. A cold mist rolled in from the nearby fields, blurring the world into a gray silence. I told myself it was just a short walk, 15 minutes at most, but the deeper I went, the quieter everything became. Even my footsteps sounded hesitant, as if the ground didn't want to echo them. The air smelled of damp earth and something faintly metallic. That was when I noticed there wasn't a single sound, not even the chirp of a cricket. The silence wasn't peaceful. It felt watchful, almost expectant. Every few steps, I glanced over my shoulder, but there was nothing behind me except the endless, fog-covered road. My phone had no signal, and the clock on the screen flickered between 12 o'clock and 12:01, as if time itself was reluctant to move forward. I shoved my hands into my pockets and walked faster, pretending not to feel the heavy gaze that seemed to follow me. Somewhere ahead, the faint glow of a street lamp appeared, but oddly, it flickered in a slow rhythm, like it was breathing. As I approached the flickering lamp, I realized it was the only one still lit on the entire road. Every other pole stood dark and lifeless, their cables humming faintly in the mist. I stopped directly under the light, hoping for comfort, but instead, I felt exposed, like I had just stepped into the center of the stage. The shadows beyond the lamp's glow seemed to shift, curling inward. A faint rustling echoed behind me. I spun around, heart hammering, but the road was empty, just fog, darkness, and the slow, mechanical flicker above me. Get a grip, I muttered, it's just the wind. But the air was completely still. The thought of turning back crossed my mind, but pride, or maybe foolishness, kept me moving forward. The mist was thicker now, swallowing the edges of the road. I could barely see 10 feet ahead. I pulled up my hoodie and tried to stay calm, counting each step in my head. 37, 38, 39. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate, matching my pace. When I stopped, they stopped. When I took another step, they followed. I told myself it was just an echo, but echoes don't pause when you do. My throat went dry. I didn't dare look back this time. I increased my pace, almost jogging, pretending I didn't hear the footsteps quicken behind me. The sound of shoes hitting gravel came closer, steady, determined. I broke into a run. My heartbeat roared in my ears, drowning out everything else. The fog blurred the world into a moving wall of white, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure ahead, tall, motionless, blocking the road. I blinked, and it was gone. I stopped abruptly, chest heaving. The air around me felt heavy, like it was pressing against my lungs. That's when I realized the footsteps had stopped too. Silence again. But now it felt alive. I stood there, frozen, listening. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. A low hum started behind me. Not mechanical, not human. It sounded like whispering, a dozen voices speaking under their breath, just below the edge of understanding. I turned slowly, but the fog was so thick I could barely see my own hands. Then, just for a second, I caught a glimpse, a pale hand retreating into the mist. My skin went cold. I took a step back, tripping slightly over a crack in the road. The whispers stopped. Complete, suffocating silence again. I fumbled for my phone, hoping the flashlight would cut through the darkness. The screen glowed weakly, battery at 2%. I turned on the light. It barely illuminated a few steps ahead, yet enough to show that the road behind me was empty, or at least it looked empty. I swallowed hard and started walking again, slower this time, trying to breathe normally. My ears strained for any sound, but all I could hear was a distant buzz of a dying street lamp. I told myself I'd laugh about this later, but deep down I knew I wouldn't. Then, Out of nowhere, a faint melody floated through the air. It was a lullaby, one I hadn't heard since childhood. My mother used to hum it whenever storms frightened me, but she'd been gone for years. The sound came from the left side of the road, where the fog was thickest. My hands trembled as I held the light in that direction, but it revealed nothing, just a moving mist. The lullaby stopped. Then a voice whispered, almost lovingly, "You shouldn't be here." I froze. It was my mother's voice. My knees went weak. My phone's light flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I couldn't even see my own fingers. My breath came out in short, trembling bursts. The road ahead or behind no longer mattered. I just wanted to move. I reached forward, feeling for direction, but my hand touched something cold and solid. It wasn't a wall, it was skin. I jerked back, heart racing. A faint outline appeared in front of me, taller than any person I knew, its edges trembling like smoke. Two pale eyes blinked open in the fog, staring right at me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The air around me froze. Suddenly, the street lamp behind me flickered to life again, throwing a weak glow across the mist. The figure was gone, or maybe it had never been there. My whole body was shaking. I looked at the road and realized I had no idea which way I'd come from. Both directions looked identical. The fog had erased everything. "Just walk," I whispered to myself. "Don't stop." My legs moved, but my mind felt detached, like I was watching someone else. And as I walked, I noticed faint footprints on the ground, not mine, leading the way forward. I followed the footprints cautiously, each step echoing louder than it should have in the thick silence. The prints were bare, no shoes, no tread marks, just human outlines pressed into damp gravel. They led straight ahead, unwavering, as though whoever made them never looked back. The mist pulsed faintly, like it was breathing in rhythm with my heartbeat. My thoughts became tangled. I couldn't tell if I'd been walking for minutes or hours. The air grew heavier with each breath. Then, for the first time since the road began, I saw something new. An old wooden sign barely visible through the fog. Its letters were faded, but I could still read one word: return. I froze. The sign swayed gently, though there was no wind. For some reason, the sight filled me with dread instead of guidance. "Return where?" I whispered aloud, though my voice sounded foreign, distant. I turned to look behind me, but the road was gone. The path I'd walked had vanished, swallowed by the fog. Panic surged through me. I spun around, clutching my dead phone like it was a weapon, and stared at the footprints again. They were the only thing left to follow. I didn't even consider disobeying them. Something deep inside told me that stopping would be worse than walking into the unknown. The road beneath my feet began to change. The smooth gravel turned rough, jagged, as if I was walking over cracked bones. My footsteps made a crunching sound that didn't quite match the rhythm of my movement. When I looked down, the ground seemed to shimmer. The footprints ahead now glowed faintly red, like embers. My mind screamed at me to stop, but my legs kept moving forward, one step at a time, like they were no longer under my control. I whispered to myself over and over, "It's just a dream." But the cold air biting my face felt far too real. I started hearing the whispers again. They came from all around me this time, circling the fog like invisible moths. They didn't sound angry, more curious, almost pleading. A woman's voice among them whispered my name. "David," my heart stopped. My name, not a random sound, not imagined. I spun around wildly, searching for a face, a shadow, anything. The mist thickened, curling upward in shapes that almost resembled people, tall, thin silhouettes with hollow centers where their hearts should be. They moved slowly, drifting closer, and each time they breathed, the temperature dropped. I could see my own breath crystallize in midair. I backed away, eyes fixed on the approaching figures. "Stay away from me," I said, but my voice cracked halfway through. The figures didn't respond. They only tilted their heads, like they were studying me. The whispers turned into faint hums, vibrating in my skull. I clutched my ears, but the sound came from inside my head. Then they stopped, all at once. The silence returned, even heavier than before. I dared to open my eyes again, and they were gone. Only the footprints remained, still glowing faintly. My knees trembled, and I realized tears had been streaming down my face without me noticing. When I finally turned forward again, the environment had changed completely. The road was no longer gravel, but a long stretch of dark, wet asphalt. Streetlights lined both sides now, but every single one was flickering at different intervals, creating a disorienting pulse of light and shadow. The air smelled like rain and burnt metal. My pulse steadied a little. Maybe I just walked into another part of town, I thought. But then I saw something that shattered that small comfort. The same wooden sign from before, now ahead of me again, with a single new word carved below the first. Return home. I didn't remember passing it again. My breath caught as I reached for the sign, running my hand over the letters. The wood was wet and sticky, but not from rain. It was something thicker like blood. My stomach turned. I wiped my hand against my hoodie and looked closer. Beneath the carved letters, faintly etched, were my initials. I staggered back, my heart pounding in my ears. No, I whispered, shaking my head. That's not possible. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. The fog pulsed once more, and I could swear the road ahead stretched longer, infinitely longer, than it had before. That's when I noticed a faint sound of footsteps again. But this time, they weren't behind me. They were in front. Whoever it was, they were walking toward me, slow and deliberate. I could see movement in the fog. A human outline, tall and crooked, shoulders slouched forward unnaturally. I froze in place, too afraid to call out. As it came closer, I could make out details. Torn clothing, bare feet, and something glinting wetly across his chest. My heart dropped when I saw its face. It was mine, pale, lifeless, and smiling. I stumbled backward, tripping over the uneven ground, my eyes fixed on a figure that looked exactly like me. It stopped a few feet away, tilting its head slightly, the same way I do when I'm confused. Its smile widened, stretching too far, revealing teeth that looked cracked and blackened. I wanted to run, but my legs refused to move. My voice broke into a whisper. "Who are you?" The double's expression didn't change. It just raised its hand and pointed behind me. Against every instinct screaming not to, I turned around. There, in the distance, stood another figure, this one smaller. It was my mother. She looked exactly as I remembered her from years ago, standing barefoot in her nightgown, her hair loose around her face. Her eyes were open, but they didn't blink. "Come home," she said softly, her voice echoing unnaturally in the still air. "It's cold." My throat tightened, and for a second, I wanted to believe she was real. But something was wrong. Her feet weren't touching the ground. They hovered an inch above it, swaying slightly. I took a step back. The other version of me started laughing, a dry, broken sound that echoed from everywhere at once. I covered my ears, but it didn't stop. The laughter echoed long after my double stopped moving. I stumbled back until my shoulder hit the wooden sign again. But when I turned, it was gone. My hand met nothing but cold air. I spun in circles, tried to make sense of it, but every direction looked the same now. Endless, colorless fog. I squeezed my eyes shut and whispered, "Wake up, please wake up." When I opened them again, the fog had shifted. The road was wider now, lined with faint outlines of houses. Their windows glowed dimly, but not with light, with shadows that moved inside them. Whatever was happening, it wanted me to see something. The first house I approached looked familiar, too familiar. The cracked paint, the rusted mailbox, even the dent on the front door. My stomach twisted as I realized it was my old home, the one I grew up in. But that was impossible. That house had been demolished years ago after the fire. My steps slowed as I climbed the porch. The door creaked open before I touched it, releasing a wave of warm air that smelled faintly of smoke and ashes. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. From somewhere inside, I heard the faint hum of that same lullaby again, my mother's song. The living room was exactly as I remembered it. The couch, the picture frames, the old carpet with burn marks near the edges. My chest tightened with nostalgia and dread. I walked slowly toward the table, where a single candle burned in the center, though there was no flame, just a glowing wick. The wax had melted into a puddle that looked eerily like dark blood. "Mom!" I whispered again. The lullaby stopped. A chair creaked behind me. I turned around slowly, expecting to see her. Instead, I saw myself sitting there, smiling faintly, head tilted. My reflection blinked once and said, "You finally came home." I froze, my entire body going numb. The other me stood up, slow and deliberate, the same way I would if I didn't want to scare someone. "You shouldn't have walked the road," he said softly, his tone almost kind. "It remembers everything you fear." I wanted to speak, but no words came. He stepped closer, his eyes empty and glassy. "You can't leave now. You've already arrived." My pulse pounded in my ears. I stepped back toward the door, but the house shifted. The walls began to stretch upward like melted wax, the furniture sinking into the floor. The sound of whispering filled the air again, hundreds of overlapping voices saying my name. I bolted toward the door, grabbing the handle with shaking hands, but it wouldn't budge. My reflection, or whatever it was, tilted its head again, watching me struggle. "You still don't get it," it said. "You're not supposed to leave." I screamed and slammed my shoulder against the door until it finally gave way. I stumbled outside, gasping, only to realize the world beyond wasn't the same road anymore. The houses were gone. The ground looked like rippling water, reflecting a dark sky without stars. I looked down. My reflection stared back from the surface. Only it smiled and raised its hand even though I hadn't moved mine. The reflection started walking toward me from inside the water. The surface didn't break. It rippled like glass bending inward. I stumbled back, my breath coming in ragged bursts. The air was thick and humming, vibrating with something that felt alive. "Stop!" I shouted, but the figure didn't. It pressed its palm against the underside of the surface, and cracks formed around it, spiderwebbing outward. I heard the sound of water rushing, except there was no water. The cracks spread until the entire ground beneath me gave way. I fell, screaming, into darkness that felt endless, cold, and suffocating. When I landed, I didn't hit ground. I was standing, somehow, in another version of the same road. The fog was gone, replaced by a red, pulsating glow that seemed to come from beneath the surface itself. The air smelled of iron and decay. I looked behind me, half expecting the doppelganger to follow, but it didn't. The silence here was worse, deeper, as if the world itself was holding its breath. In the distance, I could see movement again, not human, but crawling shapes with elongated limbs, dragging themselves across the ground. I couldn't tell if they were coming toward me or away. I started walking again, though I didn't know why. Every direction looked identical, and yet I felt drawn toward a faint light far ahead. My shoes made soft, sticky sound as I stepped. The ground felt alive, pulsing faintly beneath me. The light grew brighter with each step, flickering like a heartbeat. As I got closer, I saw what it was, a lamppost, the same one from earlier, but hanging from it was a figure. My breath caught. It was me again, suspended upside down, eyes open and lips moving soundlessly. I took one hesitant step closer, and the body twitched violently, gasping out one word, "Run." I didn't wait to think. I turned and sprinted into the darkness. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't care. The ground beneath me trembled, and I could hear something massive moving beneath the surface, following my steps. I didn't dare look back. Then the whispers returned, louder now, screaming over each other. My vision blurred, my heartbeat sinking with the pounding beneath me. I could see faint glows ahead, like doorways flickering in the air. Without thinking, I ran toward one and dove through it. For a second, everything went silent. Then I was standing back on the road again. Or so I thought. The mist had returned, but the world was subtly wrong. The trees along the road bent inward, their branches pointing at me like accusing fingers. The air hummed faintly with static. I turned around to see if the footprints were still there, and they were, but this time they didn't lead forward. They circled me completely, over and over, forming a spiral on the road. My breath quickened. Somewhere deep in the fog, I heard the same voice whisper again, calm and patient. "You're not walking anymore. You never were." My vision blurred, and I realized my legs weren't moving, yet the road was carrying me forward. The world around me swayed like a reflection on disturbed water. I blinked hard, but the motion didn't stop. My breath felt shallow, my heart beat out of sync with everything. The spiral of footprints beneath me began to fade, replaced by cracks glowing faintly beneath the asphalt. I crouched down, touching one with my fingertip. It was warm, too warm. The hum beneath my skin matched the pulse in the ground. I stood up, dizzy, and that's when I noticed something terrifying. Ahead of me, walking slowly, was me again, the same clothes, same walk, but I wasn't watching from behind. I was watching from above, like the road was replaying me. I shouted, but the other me didn't react. He kept walking calmly, as if unaware of the twisted world around him. I followed, desperate, calling his name, my name, over and over, but the fog swallowed my voice. I could feel panic clawing at my throat. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and I was standing in front of him. He stopped, eyes meeting mine for the first time. "You're late," he said quietly. "You were supposed to come back sooner." My mind froze. "Back!" I whispered. He nodded once. "The road doesn't end, you know. It only takes what's left." Then his body dissolved into mist. I stumbled backward, trembling, my thoughts scattered like shards of glass. The road beneath me cracked again, this time revealing flashes of something underneath. Rooms, faces, memories. I saw myself at age 10, running through my old neighborhood. I saw my mother sitting by the window, humming the same lullaby. Then I saw a fire, the burning house the night she died. The images came and went like lightning flashes, each one searing into my mind. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. "Stop!" I screamed, but the road pulsed harder, showing me more, until I saw something I couldn't explain. I saw myself lighting the match. The air turned heavy, pressing against my lungs. I tried to deny it. I'd never lit that fire. I wasn't even home that night. But the vision burned too vividly to ignore. My reflection in the flames was laughing, eyes hollow. I backed away from the memory, trembling, but the whispering voices returned, all of them chanting my name. "You walked this road to forget," one of them said, "but forgetting has a price." I screamed again, but my voice came out hoarse and distant, like someone else was using my mouth. I looked around. The mist had turned crimson, glowing faintly, and the road ahead twisted into a spiral that led downward. Paragraph 35. I didn't want to follow it, but there was no other direction left. The downward spiral pulled at me, each step sinking slightly as if I were walking into soft earth. The air grew colder and the silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting. My body felt lighter, weaker. I reached out to touch the walls of mist spiraling beside me. They pulsed faintly like veins. I felt warmth behind me, turned quickly, and saw my mother again. Her face was calm this time. "You shouldn't have come back here," she said softly. "You weren't meant to remember." Then her face melted away into ash. I collapsed to my knees, shaking uncontrollably. "Remember what?" I shouted into the void. The ground beneath me answered with a rumble, cracking open. Inside, I saw fragments of a car, metal twisted, glass shattered. My reflection glimmered in the wreckage. A memory I'd buried began forcing its way back. I remembered leaving the house that night. The argument, the storm, the sound of my mother calling after me, the headlights, the scream, the crash. My breath came in ragged bursts. I hadn't been walking home that night. I'd been running away. And maybe I never left that road at all. The fog around me thickened, pressing close like a second skin. My vision blurred. Every direction looked the same, but I could still hear her. My mother's voice, softer now, distant but kind. "You've been walking this road for years," she said, looking for a way back. I shook my head violently. "No," I whispered. "That's not true. I'm alive." The fog pulsed once, and I saw my own face reflected in it. pale, lifeless, blood dry along my temple. "You died here," the voice continued. "You just didn't want to believe it." The world around me began to flicker between night and daylight, like time itself was unraveling. Suddenly, I was standing in daylight. The road was quiet, clean, ordinary, no fog, no blood, no whispers. Cars passed in the distance. Birds chirped. My heart lifted for a second. Maybe it was over. Maybe I'd hallucinated everything. I took a deep breath and started walking. Then I saw it, a small memorial on the roadside. Flowers. A photograph. My photograph. Beneath it, a plaque read, "In loving memory of David, 1997 to 2021. Gone too soon." My vision spun. My hand began to shake violently. "No," I gasped. "No, that can't be." But the wind whispered to the flowers, carrying the faint echo of my mother's lullaby. Tears streamed down my face as I knelt before the memorial. My mind refused to accept it. I touched the photo. It was real, cold, and wet with morning dew. I could smell the soil beneath the flowers. "If I'm dead," I whispered, "why can I still feel this?" The world around me shimmered, bending like a reflection on rippling water. A figure appeared behind me, my other self again, calm, smiling faintly. "Because you haven't let go," he said softly. "You kept walking the road, thinking it would lead home, but home isn't here." His voice grew distant, fading like static. It never was. I looked up, and the world had begun fading. Colors draining away, sounds growing hollow. The fog returned one last time, but this time it was gentle, almost warm. My mother's voice sang through it, faint but peaceful. "Come home, my son. It's time." I felt the tension in my body dissolve, the fear, the guilt, everything. I took one final breath and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then I stepped forward into the fog. The silence embraced me, not cold, not cruel, just quiet. The road was gone. Only the sound of distant footsteps remained, fading slowly until there was nothing left but night. I thought stepping into the fog would be the end. Peace, nothingness, release. But it wasn't. I opened my eyes and found myself standing on the same road again, only now it was bathed in silver light. The mist shimmered like moonlit water, and the air felt still but heavy with expectation. I whispered into the emptiness, "Is this heaven?" The word sounded strange, too loud. Then I realized something was wrong. There were no stars in the sky, only a pale, endless gray stretching in every direction. The silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was hollow, echoing. Something in it was listening. At first, I convinced myself this was just the in-between, the place souls pass through before moving on. I waited. Minutes, hours. Time didn't matter here, but the waiting became unbearable. The silence thickened until every breath sounded intrusive. Then I heard it. A single set of footsteps far behind me. Slow and deliberate. I turned, expecting my double again, but the fog hid everything. The steps stopped when I moved, then started when I stilled. Whoever or whatever was there was patient. It wanted me to keep walking. I began to walk, hoping the movement would quiet the dread curling in my chest. The mist glowed brighter ahead, and for a moment, I thought I saw outlines of other people. Figures walking aimlessly, heads bowed, faces blurred. When I called out, none responded. They didn't even seem to hear me. They moved in slow loops, endlessly retracing invisible paths. I tried to reach one, but as I stepped closer, my hand passed through him like smoke. He shuddered once and kept walking. That was when I realized the truth. I wasn't the only one trapped here. This road was full of the lost. I watched them for what felt like hours. Some were crying softly. Others whispered to themselves as if reciting memories. Every so often, one vanished, dissolving into the mist with a sigh. I wanted to believe that meant freedom, but the sound they made wasn't peaceful. It was relieved. I wondered what it took to vanish like that. Regret? Acceptance? Or something darker? The air grew colder, and the endless footsteps behind me returned, closer now. I turned again. Nothing. Just the faint shape of the memorial flowers glinting far behind, as if they still belonged to the living world. "Who's there?" I shouted into the emptiness, my voice scattered like dust. No answer. The fog rippled once, and for a heartbeat, I saw a silhouette, taller than any human, its limbs thin and crooked. It stood perfectly still, as if waiting for acknowledgement. My pulse quickened, even though I no longer had one. "What do you want?" I whispered. The figure raised an arm slowly and pointed forward, the same gesture my double once made. Then it melted into the mist. I didn't know whether it was guiding me or warning me, but my feet moved anyway. The further I walked, the quieter the world became until even the sound of my steps faded. I tried humming my mother's lullaby to fill the silence, but the melody twisted halfway through, changing into something discordant. It echoed back at me, slower, deeper, as though someone else was singing along from a great distance. My chest tightened. "Mom!" I called softly. The echo stopped. Then, faintly, the same voice answered, "Not anymore." The words weren't cruel. They were empty. I kept walking, feeling the temperature drop with every breath I didn't take. Soon, the road split into two. One path glowed faintly blue, calm and inviting. The other was darker, flickering with red light beneath the fog. I stood between them, unsure which was real. From the blue side, I heard gentle humming. From the red, faint sobbing. "Choose," whispered 1,000 unseen voices. I hesitated, thinking of my mother, of the fire, of everything I'd done. The red light pulsed once, in time with my heart that shouldn't exist. Against reason, I stepped toward it. The moment my foot crossed a line, the world behind me vanished with sound like a closing door. The red path felt endless. The air was thicker, tinged with a metallic taste of rust. I walked for what felt like days, guided only by dim lights that appeared and disappeared in rhythm. Then, ahead, I saw a door standing alone, wooden cracked, but glowing faintly from within. I touched the handle, expecting resistance, but it turned easily. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of smoke and old memories. Inside, I could hear faint music, a radio playing from another life. My knees weakened. It was my childhood home again. I stepped through, half expecting the scene of fire to return, but instead I found the living room intact, bathed in a soft crimson glow. The walls pulsed faintly, alive like a beating heart. On the couch sat a small boy, me, at age 10, playing with a toy car. He looked up and smiled. "You came back," he said cheerfully. I couldn't move. "I've been waiting." His eyes were calm but too knowing, too old. "She told me you'd find your way here one day." My mouth went dry. "Who?" I asked. The boy grinned wider. "The one who keeps the road." Before I could speak again, the house trembled. The boy's skin began to crack, like old porcelain, light leaking through the fractures. "You should have stayed asleep," he whispered. "Now he knows you're awake." The floor split beneath me, revealing the glowing road beneath the house like a living artery. The boy's voice echoed as I fell through the opening. "He doesn't like wanderers who remember." The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me again was his cracked smile, stretching impossibly wide as his face dissolved into flame. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on the same road, but now it pulsed beneath me, alive and breathing like flesh. The mist was gone. In its place stretched a landscape of shadow, crimson veins glowing faintly under the cracked asphalt. Every few seconds, I felt a faint thump beneath me, rhythmic and alive, as though the road itself had a heartbeat. I stood up slowly, realizing the silence was gone. Something massive was breathing nearby, slow, deep, and patient. Ahead, the road curved into a massive archway made of bone and black stone. Symbols I couldn't read were carved along its surface, pulsing faintly with red light. The air here vibrated with whispers that sounded like my own thoughts, repeating things I tried to forget. My mistakes, my regrets, my guilt. "All roads lead back," they murmured. I took a trembling step forward, and as I did, a shadow detached itself in the archway and moved. It was tall, impossibly thin, and its movements were liquid, almost graceful. It didn't walk, it flowed. When it spoke, it didn't use words, but thoughts pressed directly into my mind. "You remember me. I froze, unable to answer. The voice was deep, echoing from inside my skull. You called me that night when you asked for a way out. I tried to speak, but my lips barely moved. I didn't mean to. I whispered. The figure tilted its head slowly, its form rippling. Intent means nothing here. You stepped onto my road. You became part of it. The being extended an arm, and the space between us folded inward. Suddenly, I was standing inches away from it. Its face, if it had one, was smooth and featureless, yet I felt its eyes piercing through me. "What are you?" I asked. The answer came instantly. "I am the echo of every traveler who never turned back. I am what remains when you forget to wake up." My body trembled. "Then am I dead?" Silence. Then a sound like laughter mixed with thunder. "Not yet, but you're close enough to touch it." I felt something move behind me, shadows gathering like a tide. They whispered fragments of my own memories. The fire, the guilt, the loneliness. The being raised one long hand and pressed it against my chest. Instantly, my vision blurred, and I saw flashes of every moment I'd walked the road, every turn, every scream I ignored. "You built this road," it whispered, brick by regret, mile by memory. I fell to my knees as heat spread through my body. "Then how do I leave?" I cried. The being leaned closer. "You don't leave what you are." The realization hit me harder than any nightmare. This wasn't just a place. It was a creation of my own making, a reflection of everything I tried to bury. The road existed because I walked it. The figure existed because I needed it to. But even as I understood that, I could feel my consciousness fading. The being stepped back, its form shifting like smoke. "Every step you take here feeds me," it said, "and when the road forgets your name, you'll become part of it." I stumbled forward, desperate to escape, but the road beneath me began to ripple and rise. Shapes formed within it. Faces, hands, voices, all screaming without sound. I recognized some of them. People I once knew, people I'd hurt without meaning to. They reached for me, pleading with hollow eyes. "Help us," one mouthed. "Wake up," another begged. I tried to pull away, but their hands burned cold as they gripped my legs. The entity stood silently watching, its head tilting slightly, as if curious to see what I'd choose. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to remember the real world. The wind, the stars, the warmth of sunlight. Slowly, the screams began to fade. I felt the road tremble beneath me, resisting, unwilling to release its hold. "You don't own me," I whispered. The shadow moved closer. "You built me. You summoned me. You named me when you asked for silence." Its words slithered through my mind like smoke. And in that instant, I remembered. The night I'd wished to disappear, I'd said aloud, "I wish the world would go quiet." The realization struck like lightning. The silence wasn't punishment. It was fulfillment. I had wished for this. Every sound stolen, every person erased, every scream swallowed by fog. It was my desire turned into reality. "Take it back." I shouted, "I don't want this anymore." The entity didn't respond at first. Then, slowly, it reached into its own chest and pulled out something glowing, a faintly beating heart made of black glass. "Then wake up," it said. "But remember, silence leaves echoes." It pressed the heart against my forehead, and the world shattered. Light exploded behind my eyes, and I felt myself being dragged upward, through mist, through darkness, through memory. I gasped, and real air filled my lungs. I was lying on the same road again, but this time, it was morning. The sun had risen. The fog was gone. Cars passed by, oblivious. I stood up, shaking, tears streaming down my face. I was alive, but when I looked down, faint black cracks ran along my skin, pulsing in rhythm with something that wasn't my heart. For hours I just stood there, watching the world move around me. Cars passed, birds sang, the wind hummed through the trees, all the sounds I thought I'd never hear again. But something about them felt wrong. They didn't sound natural anymore. Every noise had a faint echo, a hollow undertone, as if the world was mimicking life rather than living it. When I tried to hum, my voice wavered and broke mid-note. That was when I noticed no one on the road was looking at me, not even once. I waved at a passing motorcyclist, shouted for help, but he sped past without even turning his head. Confused, I stepped into the middle of the lane. Another car swerved slightly, but didn't stop. I caught a glimpse of the driver's face. Blank, eyes glazed, unmoving like a doll. My throat tightened. "Can you see me?" I yelled. But the only answer was a hum of the engine fading away. I reached out to touch a nearby fence, and my hand passed through it for a split second before solidifying again. The road had marked me. I stumbled toward the nearest town, praying someone would notice me. The houses looked normal. Lights in windows, smoke rising from chimneys, but everything felt like a painted illusion. The world moved, but it didn't breathe. Even my footsteps made no sound now. I entered a small cafe, hoping for warmth and conversation. But inside, people sat perfectly still, sipping from empty cups. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and something older, something like ash. The woman behind the counter turned slowly when I spoke. Her eyes were pale gray, her pupils thin as cracks. "You shouldn't have left the road," she said softly. My stomach dropped. "You can see me?" I asked. She smiled, but it wasn't kind. Only those who walked it can see each other. My mouth went dry. "Then what happens now?" Her smile faded. "It follows you until you remember where you belong." Then she blinked, and in that instant, the entire cafe was empty again. Panic rose inside me like fire. I ran outside, desperate for sound, for life. I screamed into the open street, but my voice barely carried. The cracks on my skin glowed faintly, like veins filled with black light. People passed without seeing me, their faces slightly blurred, their shadows faintly trembling, as if the world itself was glitching. I could feel the road beneath every step, pulsing through the soles of my feet, whispering softly, "Come back." That night, I checked into a motel at the edge of town. The receptionist didn't speak, just slid the key across the counter with a trembling hand. Inside my room, I sat on the bed and listened. For hours, I heard nothing but my own heartbeat. Steady, rhythmic, wrong. Then, around midnight, the sound changed. A faint thump echoed from under the floorboards, perfectly timed with my pulse. I knelt down and pressed my ear to the wood. The heartbeat wasn't mine anymore. It was the road's. Sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the archway again, glowing faintly in red light. The entity's voice echoed in my mind. Silence leaves echoes. By morning, the cracks on my skin had spread up to my neck. They weren't wounds. They were symbols, faintly shifting like veins alive beneath glass. When I tried to wash them away, the water darkened instantly, smelling faintly of smoke and iron. I stared at my reflection and saw a faint mist swirling in my pupils. I wasn't fully back. The next few days blurred together. I wandered from place to place, trying to act normal, but the world around me kept fading. Conversations turned into whispers, laughter dissolved into static. I'd look away for a moment and find people standing still, watching me with eyes that flickered black for just a second. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps behind me. Slow, familiar, rhythmic. I knew that sound. The road was walking with me now. One evening, while passing a quiet park, I saw a little girl chasing a red ball. When it rolled toward me, I bent to pick it up, but the moment I touched it, the air went still. The girl froze mid-step, her mouth open in laughter that no longer made sound. The grass, the trees, everything around me shimmered like heat on asphalt. The ball melted into smoke in my hands. And then I heard again, the voice, low and near. The road never ends. It just changes shape. I turned around slowly, and there it was, the fog, creeping back across the street, rolling over cars, buildings, everything. The sky dimmed as though night had swallowed the sun whole. My heart pounded, but not in my chest. It pulsed in the cracks of my skin. I tried to run, but every direction led to the same stretch of road, stretching into the mist, waiting. My voice broke as I whispered, "Please, just let me go." The fog whispered back, soft and cruel, "You are the road now." I don't remember how long I stood there. staring into the fog. Time stopped meaning anything. The road pulsed faintly beneath my feet, sinking with my heartbeat until I couldn't tell where I ended and it began. I tried to scream, but my voice came out hollow, echoing back at me from every direction. I heard dozens of whispers layered within it. My own voice, repeating every word I'd ever said in fear. Each echo overlapped, forming a low chant. Walk, remember, return. The mist thickened until I could barely see my hands. Then, faintly, I noticed shapes moving within it, dark silhouettes shifting and gliding. Their voices murmured softly, blending together in a sorrowful hum. You shouldn't have looked back, one of them whispered near my ear. I turned sharply, but the air was empty. Another voice followed, softer, trembling. We all thought we escaped too. I took a step backward, and my foot sank slightly into the road, as if it were liquid. Panic flared, but the ground held me fast. I tried to pull free, but every movement dragged me deeper. The tar felt warm, almost like skin, clinging to my legs with unnatural strength. No! I shouted, grabbing for the air. Dozens of pale hands reached from the mist, their fingers brushing my arms. They weren't trying to pull me down. They were holding me steady. Accept it, one whispered. It's easier if you stop fighting. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. I want to go home. A soft voice, maybe my own, answered, You are home. The road beneath me shimmered. For a moment, I saw my reflection in its dark surface, but it wasn't me anymore. My skin was cracked, glowing faintly with crimson light. My eyes two hollow voids of mist. The image smiled, though I wasn't smiling. It's not death, it whispered to my own lips. It's memory. The reflection reached upward, touching the surface from below. The moment our fingers met, I felt a jolt of heat spread through my body, like molten air filling my veins. When I blinked, the fog had cleared slightly. I was no longer on an empty road, but standing among endless mirrors, each one showing a different version of me. Older, younger, sadder, colder. Some screamed silently. Others stood still, resigned. I realized each reflection was a piece of me left behind on different nights I'd walked alone. Each fragment lost a regret. And behind every reflection stood the same tall shadow, hand resting on each shoulder like a guardian or a warden. The mirrors began to crack, one after another, releasing faint streams of light that floated upward like embers. With every shatter, I felt lighter, as though something within me was unraveling. But the relief didn't last. The more pieces escaped, the emptier I became. The voice returned, colder now. You can't exist without your sorrow. You were built from it. I fell to my knees, gripping my chest as the hollow ache spread. Then what am I? I whispered. The answer came like wine through glass. You are what's left when the noise stops. The world flickered. For a heartbeat, I saw the real street again. Cars, trees, moonlight. But then it vanished, replaced by endless darkness. Only the glowing cracks of my skin remained, spreading outward like roads branching across the horizon. Each one pulsed with faint whispers. I realized they weren't random. They were names. Every person who had ever vanished on a silent road. Every traveler who never returned. Their voices filled my head, blending into one unbearable hum. I wasn't alone, but I wished I were. I felt the entity's presence again before I saw it. The air trembled. The mirrors bent inward. It emerged from the void, taller now, its form flickering between shadow and smoke. You've walked far, it said, its voice softer than before. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. You already gave yourself. It reached out, touching one of the glowing cracks on my arm. You are the echo now. The road must remember or it disappears. I stared at it, horrified. You mean I'm part of the road? It nodded slowly. The realization sank in like ice. Every lost traveler I'd seen, every figure wandering the mist, had once been like me, searching for escape. The road didn't destroy us. It kept us layer upon layer, so it could continue existing. Without us, it would fade into nothingness. So this is eternity? I asked. The entity tilted its head. not eternity, continuity. Then it stepped closer and whispered something that froze me completely. When others walk at midnight, they'll hear your footsteps too. The world began to blur again, colors fading into grayscale. My body dissolved into faint trails of mist, each one curling back toward the ground. I could feel the road absorbing me, wrapping me in its pulse, its silence, its memory. My last thought before the darkness consumed everything was the first night. The fire, the regret, the wish for quiet. And as I vanished into the silence, I understood the cruel truth. The road had never haunted me. I had built it, and now I would walk it forever. It's strange, being part of something that never sleeps. I don't feel time anymore. There's only rhythm, the soft thump beneath the asphalt, the endless hum of memory. At first, I thought it was nothingness. Then I began to hear faint vibrations that weren't mine. Footsteps, voices, laughter. They came from above, from the world I'd left behind. Travelers still walked the road, unaware of the heartbeat beneath their feet. And when they whispered to themselves, I could hear every word. Their fears tasted like echoes. The first one came at 12:03 a.m., a man humming nervously as he walked with his phone flashlight trembling, his boots pressed against the ground where my hands used to be. Every step sent a dull ache through what was left of me. I tried to speak, but the words came out as wind, curling around his ears. Go back, I whispered. He froze, looking around. His light flickered once, twice. He muttered to himself and hurried forward. I screamed then, not to scare him, but to warn him. My scream became the sound of tires screeching far in the distance. He didn't understand. None of them ever do. They hear the whispers, the faint moans of the road shifting beneath their feet, and they tell themselves it's the wind. But every sound they ignore, every shiver they dismiss, it strengthens us. We're not monsters. We're memories, desperate to be remembered. Each time they walk here, the road stretches farther, reaching for them. The silence grows hungry, and I, trapped within it, am both its prisoner and its voice. Sometimes I feel others near me, the ones who came before. Their presence flickers like candles beneath the surface. We can't speak in words anymore, only through pulses of thought. Yet I feel their emotions clearly. Sorrow, regret, fear. Some have been here, so long they no longer remember their names. They merge with the rhythm completely, lost to the endless hum. But I fight it. I keep my name, my story, because if I let it fade, I'll become nothing but asphalt and fog. One night, a young woman walked alone, maybe 20, her face pale under moonlight. She was crying, whispering to herself, "Why did he leave me?" Her tears fell to the road and burned like sparks when they touched the surface. I felt them. The pain in her words called to me. For a moment, I reached upward, the mist forming faintly around her feet. She shivered. "Who's there?" she asked softly. I wanted to tell her everything, to warn her before she became like me. But the road's voice drowned mine out. Not yet. The fog rose higher that night, curling around her like a gentle hand. I could sense her memories spilling out. Heartbreak, guilt, loneliness, all the things that feed this place. She slowed down, staring into the mist, hearing voices that weren't real. Her mind began to blur, and I could feel her slipping toward us. I tried one last time to call out, forcing my will through the silence. "Turn back!" She froze, eyes wide. Then she ran, fast, stumbling, escaping into the world beyond. The road sighed beneath me, disappointed. Every failed attempt weakens me. The more I try to help, the more the silence feeds on what remains of my voice. I feel pieces of myself scatter along the highway, blending into the cracks and shadows. Some nights, when rain falls, I can almost feel the water washing over me, clearing the dust of forgotten years. But even then, I can't move. I only remember. That's the curse. Not the darkness, not the endless time, but the remembering that never ends. Sometimes, travelers leave things behind. Broken phones, dropped keys, wilted flowers. Each object becomes a doorway, connecting me to their lives for a moment, Through a single keychain, I once saw flashes of man's memories, his family, his home, his laughter. Then it faded, leaving me hollow. The road keeps those fragments, weaving them into its endless skin. Every mile is a story, every crack a memory. If you ever feel the ground tremble beneath you, it's us reaching out, begging not to be forgotten. One night, I felt something different. The air shifted, colder than usual, and the fog thinned. In the distance, headlights approached, but the sound of the engine was wrong. It growled low, steady, and human. The lights flickered, bending as though distorted by heat. Then, just as the car drew near, it vanished, swallowed by silence. For the first time in years, I felt the entity's presence beside me again. "You've done well," it whispered. "The road remembers through you." I didn't answer. I didn't want to, but I could feel it smiling in the dark, a cold satisfaction pulsing through the asphalt. The world above me rumbled faintly, and new footsteps echoed far away. Another traveler was coming, another story ready to be written into the road. I reached upward, my fingers made of mist, brushing faintly against the edge of reality. I wanted to warn them, to scream, but the silence swallowed my voice again, leaving only one thought behind. One question that still haunts every night walker. When you walk alone at midnight, are the footsteps behind you really yours? The night seemed endless. I had walked what felt like hours, yet the same flickering streetlight still glowed faintly ahead. My legs were weak, but my fear was stronger. Then I noticed something strange. My shadow was no longer aligned with my body. It moved half a second too late, as if delayed. When I stopped, it stopped. When I turned, it turned, but slower, hesitant, as though thinking for itself. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice cracked and no sound came out. That's when I realized I wasn't breathing heavy anymore. I wasn't breathing at all. My chest felt frozen. I pressed my hand against it, but there was no heartbeat. Panic set in. I screamed, but the road swallowed every sound. I waved my hands, desperate to see if I was still real, and that's when I saw another figure mimicking me perfectly. Not a shadow, but a pale, human form moving just behind me. Its expression was blank, but its mouth opened as if trying to speak. I ran toward it in terror, but it vanished, leaving only the faint smell of smoke and the echo of my own gasping silence. I stumbled into the middle of the road, trembling, my vision swimming. The world around me seemed to fade. The trees lost their texture. The sky blurred into gray. I blinked hard, but the world didn't come back right. Everything looked like an old photograph, colorless and distorted. Then, from that faded landscape, people began to appear, dozens of them, standing along the roadside, staring blankly at me. Their faces were pale, their eyes black voids. I recognized some of them, faces from old news articles, missing person posters, and a few I'd seen in my dreams. They began to whisper. It wasn't English, not even words I could understand, just a low chant that pulsed like a heartbeat. Their voices rose and fell, blending with the wind. The longer I listened, the more my vision dimmed, and my body felt lighter, like I was slipping away. I tried to step back, but the road beneath my feet turned to fog. Then one of them, a woman with hollow eyes and a broken neck, reached out and touched my face. Her hand was ice cold. When she spoke, her voice was mine. "You shouldn't have walked alone." I tried to scream, but couldn't. My throat tightened and my body felt paralyzed. The chanting stopped all at once, and the silence was unbearable. Then a distant hum filled the air, like electricity running through the earth. The streetlight ahead flickered wildly, and I saw something forming beneath it. A figure wrapped in darkness, taller than any human, its limbs too long, its eyes burning red. The pale figures around me began to fade back into the mist, bowing their heads as if in reverence, and the tall figure started walking toward me. Every step it took made the ground tremble. My instinct screamed to run, but my legs were locked in place. It didn't walk like a person. It glided, its head tilted unnaturally to the side. When it stopped in front of me, I could feel its breath, cold, metallic, and heavy with decay. Its face wasn't visible, just a swirling void of darkness. Slowly, it lifted a hand and pointed at me. Then, with a voice that sounded like hundreds of whispers layered together. It said, "You've already joined them." I didn't understand until I looked down at myself. My body was transparent. My hands, pale and glowing faintly like the figures I'd seen before. I tried to touch the ground, but my fingers passed through it like smoke. My heart sank as I realized I was no longer alive, or at least not in the way I used to be. The road, the fog, the whispers, they weren't haunting me. They were welcoming me. The tall figure reached out and placed his hand on my chest, and for the first time, I felt warmth, not comforting but burning, as if marking me forever. The moment its hand left my chest, the fog exploded outward. I was standing alone again on the road, but the world looked different. Too sharp, too silent. No insects, no wind, just stillness. I looked behind me and saw my own body lying motionless on the ground, eyes open, staring blankly into the night. My first instinct was to run to it, but I stopped. Somehow, I knew I couldn't go back. The air shimmered, and the tall figure appeared again, this time at a distance, watching. It raised its hand once more, and the streetlight went out. Paragraph 99. Darkness consumed everything. I wandered for what felt like eternity, the road stretching endlessly. No destination, no time. Sometimes, I'd hear footsteps behind me, but when I turned, there was nothing. Sometimes I'd see faint figures ahead, glowing softly, walking just like me. Lost souls, doomed to repeat their final steps forever. I wondered if someone else would walk this road one night, and if they'd see me too, just another pale shadow warned them too late. If you ever find yourself walking alone on a silent road at midnight, listen closely. If the air grows heavy, if the lights begin to flicker, if your own shadow starts to move slower than you, turn back. Don't look behind you. Don't stop, because that road isn't empty. I thought I was walking home that night, but I never left. And now, every midnight, when the fog rolls in, I'm still here, waiting for the next traveler to join the silence. People still ask me if what I said was real, and honestly, I stopped trying to convince them. Some things you have to see or survive to believe. Sometimes I wonder if it's really over, or if it's just waiting for the right night to happen again. If you made it this far, remember, stories like this don't just happen to anyone. They happen to the ones who listen. So if you're still here, subscribe, because next time what happened to me might happen to you.